Chris.
And I'm Marie.
Tell us a scary story.
So it was about 1994. My grandmother just passed away. I packed my son, who was about 9 months old at the time. We packed him up and headed from Colorado to Oklahoma. We were driving down Highway 76, and at that point it was just one lane going each way, and it had become pitch black. And so I was driving, and I noticed in my rearview mirror that there was a headlight that was in the distance. It was still a good distance away from me, and it looked like a motorcycle headlight. And so I was just driving, and I realized that this headlight was getting closer really fast. And as I looked back again, I noticed it was right behind me, pretty much on the back of my car. And I didn't know, I was really scared. I didn't know it looked like an orb or an alien. And
how far above the road did it seem to be?
It was literally on the back of my window.
So it was not, it didn't look like there was a motorcycle behind you. It was like this light was right.
It was on the back of the car
And
window.
about how many miles would you say, or how long did it follow you?
At the time, it probably felt like hours that it was following. But by the time we had got off of that highway onto another one, it was like it disappeared. It wasn't following us anymore.
Did you see it kind of veer off, or did you notice that it was just gone after you turned
It was just gone after that. It was just gone. And I always thought it was an alien, but I was kind of thinking about it the other night. I was thinking, well, my grandmother had just passed away, so I never really knew, but I always thought it was an alien.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm Tom Giles, and got a scary story to tell you. So it was back in 2010. I was hired to work on a film, and so I was there on set doing a special effect makeup, gory makeup for it. So I'm there on the set, and I've got all my stuff out. I brought a tent, so I could keep all my stuff there and just stay on location. So what I did, I checked with the director, said, can I stay on location here? And he goes, I don't know if you really want to stay on location. It's like, why? It's a nice little farmhouse here. There's a nice barn that we were doing all the kill scenes in. It's like, this is perfect. I don't have to move any of my crap. I'll just keep it right here. So then he goes, well, this place is haunted. It's like, that's freaking bullshit, haunted, so he goes, no, seriously, it's haunted. It's like, nah. It's like, no, I don't believe in ghosts, So that following night, what I did, it was so freaking hot, so I took the tent out. I had it outside, just where the barn is, just outside, and it was nice cool night. So I'm there sleeping. And then just after 3 o'clock, in the morning, the sort of wind started just picking up, and it felt very cold. It's like, okay, yeah, it's getting freaking cold out here. It's the summer, it's hot. So then all of a sudden, the wind started getting more and more stronger, and there was this howl starting to appear, just in the wind. And I'm thinking, what the fuck is going on? So then, I'm there, and then the tent is starting to kind of, it felt like it was starting to be pushed down on me. So I'm there, thinking that some of the crew is screwing around with me. So I say, "Hey, fucking sod off," And I go to open the little latch so I could, check outside, and I couldn't open it because seriously, there was like these hands. It felt like there was these hands pushing down on the freaking tent. So I'm sort of there, starting to freak the hell out, because I don't see any shadows around me. And then it just gets colder and colder, and this wind, this noise, it sounded like voices, and it's all, it's this eerie kind of sound, and I'm there just, nearly about to shit my pants, So I'm there pushing up, where I was, looking. it felt like there was hands pushing down. So I started saying the Lord's Prayer. I had the Bible with me, so I grabbed my Bible. I started saying the Lord's Prayer, as I'm pushing down on this. It's getting colder and colder. The noise is getting louder and louder, and it's, and it's feeling like I feel like, I'm like, I don't know, getting buried. And then all of a sudden, it starts to kind of ease up a bit. The sound starts kind of going, I'm still saying the Lord's Prayer, holding my Bible, reading from it. And then all of a sudden, it just becomes really calm. So I'm there going, what the fuck just happened here? And so next day I told the crew and that, and they said, well, this place here, there used to be slaves that used to be on this particular place, and there was a lot of hangings that happened and a lot of other murders. And it's like, all right, and it was just I don't know, it just scared the shit out of me.
When the tent is a-rockin', don't come a-knockin'.
If I paid you $100, would you go sleep there again?
Yes, I would. Yes.
$10?
I'll do it for 10. I'll actually do it for free.
Okay, well, I was 14 years old, and it was 1966, and I was babysitting for this couple in the neighborhood. They lived on the corner in our neighborhood. They lived on our street, which was a suburban street of ranch homes, and the intersection was a busier avenue. They were a young couple, and they stayed out late often, so it was very late. Television didn't stay on all night in the 60s. It went off the air at midnight, so I was in a recliner reading, dozing, probably sleeping, and I was jolted awake by the loudest noise I had ever heard. Was it an explosion? A meteor? It was a 3-car head-on collision on that corner. Nobody wore seatbelts back then. Nobody worried about DUIs. I slowly opened the door and looked out upon a scene of horrible carnage. There was a overturned upside-down car in the street, wheels still spinning, smoking and steaming. 3 feet from the front door was a car. There was a man halfway out the front windshield, splayed on the hood, blood coming out of his eyes and ears and mouth. There was another man wandering, just roaming in the yard in shock, mumbling, "Oh my God, where's the party? Oh my God, where's the party?" There was a woman in the flower bed. Her shoes and clothes had been blown off of her. What remained was she had on a white lace bra, a 60s bra, pointed cups, and it was quickly being saturated with bright red blood. I was 14 years old. The scariest thing I had ever seen was a black and white episode of Twilight Zone. But I had sense enough to go into the house and get a blanket. I took it toward the mumbling man to put over his shoulders, and he turned to me and he said, "Where's the party?"
Where's the party?
Maybe I should project my voice like, "Oh!" No, I'm kidding.
That's great.
Alright, so I used to live in a house on Alki Beach, Seattle. It was about 100 years old, and I I had this IKEA floor lamp. It was a green IKEA floor lamp, very bright. And basically, the way our rooms were situated, my room was over here, my parents' was over here, and we had this hallway in the middle. And it was pretty late, and I couldn't fall asleep. And I heard this kind of creaking in the hallway. It didn't necessarily sound like footsteps, but it sounded like there was pressure on the floorboards. And it caught my eye or caught my ear. And I looked in the hallway, and there was nothing there. It was just complete pitch black, which was pretty weird. So that it got me a little bit on alert and stuff like that. And then with that green floor lamp, it projected this pretty bright light, and I ended up seeing this shadow of a person, kind of. It was very clear and defined. Usually like my shadow right now probably looks, kind of vague and, not like crisp, not clear lines. But this shadow was very clear, it was a person. And the shadow started moving along the wall. But there wasn't no sound with it or anything. It was just the shadow. And it walked along the wall and then across in front of me and then into my closet. And I didn't hear anything after that, but it was definitely pretty spooky, and I couldn't sleep after that, so.
So I was basically kind of downstairs in our sort of basement. We lived in like a split level house, and I was just doing laundry, and it was loud, so I can't really hear anything. I can't hear people approaching, and I suddenly see this hand kind of stick out and wave at me, and I thought, oh, it's my boyfriend just messing with me again. And, he's been trying to spook me out a lot recently, so I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna tell him to stop. And I did. And of course the hand comes out again, so I'm like, okay, he's not gonna stop it. He's not gonna quit it. I'm just gonna ignore him. So I finish what I'm doing, and I turn the corner really quickly, trying to like maybe catch him off guard and get back at him. Nothing there. And of course now I'm thinking, great, he's hiding somewhere else and is gonna jump out and scare me. And his parents' bedroom was like right around the corner, but again, I can't see into it. But I figured, oh, he probably jumped in there because it's super dark in there right now. So I decided to kind of like walk by really quickly, but he didn't jump out. So of course now I'm like, okay, what's going on? He's usually jumped out by now. So I peek in the room. There's this face, no body, just a face, staring dead at me, smiling. And it wasn't happy smiling. It wasn't like a funny, friendly, like, haha, got you smile. It was like this creepy, weird smile. And I didn't know who it was. So I ran upstairs because I'm like, I am not staying around for this. So I ran upstairs, and I knew it wasn't somebody who got in the house. I was standing right next to the back door, and everybody else could hear the front door open if somebody had come in. And of course, I'm talking to his mom, who's upstairs, and is like, hey, nobody came in, right? And she's like, no. So of course we walk back downstairs and look inside her room, and it was gone. Nothing there. And my boyfriend even stood in the middle of the room where the face was to try and replicate or see if there was something behind him that could make the same thing, and there was nothing there. And what I did realize was it was a lot taller than normal people as well.
So it's the morning after Halloween. I'm doing my job at a golf course. It's foggy, it's a little damp, it's definitely Halloween is still in the air, and I'm accustomed to picking up litter, debris, any broken branches or anything like that while I'm in the course of my day job, if you will. So it's not quite sun up, like I said, a little misty, the perfect day after Halloween. I don't know what it was. It was still in the air. It's not going to be a nice, bright, sunshiny day. It's November 1st. And I see something off in the distance, and I think, well, I better go pick this up. I don't know what it is. It could be a paper bag. It could be a branch. I don't know what it is. I get closer and closer. I'm about to pick it up when I realize I have to go back to the tool shed and grab a pitchfork or a shovel, because what I found is not a branch. It is not a piece of litter. It's not a paper bag, but it's a severed pig head. on the golf course? A pig's head.
Pig heads, roly-poly pig heads.
So one night, my friends and I, we were just hanging out at my park. And we were walking and talking, and all of a sudden we see this crazy looking girl. She had like black hair, it was so long, and just a white, beautiful dress, but no feet. You couldn't see her feet. It was like she was floating. She was floating on air, like long black hair, white dress. She was floating on air, so we were just running for our dear old lives.
No feet.
So it was June 2007. And I know what you're thinking. Ooh, what'd you do in June 2007? I went on vacation with my parents as an adult. Jealous? We went to Lake Placid in New York. So we get there, we check into a beautiful hotel, happy as a clam, and my mom's like, let's get on Lake Placid, let's take a boat ride. So we did. And we had a tour guide, and he was pointing out all the beautiful homes on Lake Placid, what millionaire lived where, and so on and so forth. And at one point, he points over to like the west end of Lake Placid, and he just kind of happens to say, oh, there's a bed and breakfast, and it's only accessible by boat. And my mother's ears perked up, and she was like, whoa, 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 bed and breakfast, that sounds amazing, like I want to stay there. So nobody else on the tour seemed interested at all in this bed and breakfast, but she hammered the tour guide with questions. He was like, yeah, this guy owns it, he inherited it from his parents, blah, blah, blah. And she really was like, remember this bed and breakfast, when we get back to the island, I want you to call. And I was like, okay. So I call, second ring, a man answers the phone. Why, sure, yes, I can accommodate you and your family. It'll be $125 a night. And I was like, wow, that's really cheap. Can I pay over the phone with a credit card? He's like, yes. He's like, would you and your family be interested in hiring a chef to come from town to come over to the bed and breakfast and cook you this gourmet 3-course dinner? So I was like, hold on, let me ask. I was like, do you guys want this gourmet dinner? And everyone's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. So I set it up. And I was like, this is too good to be true. He tells us that the next day he's gonna pick us up on a particular dock at exactly noon. I thanked him profusely and I hung up the phone. We were all pretty ecstatic. Next thing I know, it's the next day, it's noon. We head out to the dock, we're pretty excited. And off in the distance comes a man kind of slowly barreling down on us in a it looked like a tuna can. It just looked like a lame old boat with a very loud motor. And there is this big man sitting at the helm of it. And you could sort of see that there's somebody behind him, but he's so large that he's kind of blocking the person. So sure enough, it's the fella who owns the bed and breakfast. And he pulls up and he apologizes for being late. And right away, our initial reaction is he's morbidly obese. And he's wearing a white t-shirt and it's stained and it looks like it hasn't been washed in 10 years and it's just ratty and disgusting, and he has a club foot. And behind him sits a girl who looked about 19 years old. The boat didn't even look safe to take us across the lake, which was about a 15-minute boat ride, and we're totally not impressed with the fella who picked us up or the boat. So reluctantly, we just think, oh, this is going to be an adventure and something beautiful awaits on the other side. So we all decide to just kind of roll with the punches. So we get on the boat and nobody speaks or talks. And the pungent smell of gasoline was making everybody sick. So 15 minutes later, we get to our destination and we pull up to the dock. And the man gets out, and the woman that was in the back of the boat, who was like a deaf, dumb mute, helps us with our bags. And I'm not kidding you, I know it sounds like ridiculous. She had a hunchback. So we set foot on the property. He takes us up to the main lodge, which the property is just overgrown, doesn't look like it's been well maintained, and it's starting to look a little bit scary. And we get into the main house, And I just remember being hit with this pungent smell of just stale, dead air, like a window had never been open, and it just was dark and dusty and just looked like nobody had ever stayed at this bed and breakfast. And immediately the three of us were on high alert. And I remember looking down at my Nokia block phone and just having no signals and being completely stressed out and paranoid. So we have this man who's hobbling, showing us around, and we're just, no one's speaking, like, oh, how quaint, or I love the woodwork, or I love this dusty old dirty doily. Like, it's just, it hit us like a ton of bricks that this is not where we want to stay, and how are we going to get back to the other side of the lake? And there is nobody. There's not another couple in another unit. There's nobody. There are no dogs. There's nobody around. I don't think the chef that he's talking about is going to swoop in at 8 o'clock at night on a boat and make us this fictitious dinner. I don't think there are any other guests here, and I know why. It was the scariest place I have ever been to. And when we started walking around the property, we just decided we can't stay here. It's too unsafe. There are no cell service, and nobody knows we're here. And just then my mom gets bit, and she gets bit hard. She doesn't know what she gets bit by, and her arm starts to swell as we're walking around the property, just being like, nope, we don't want to stay here. Nope, no thank you. Nope, this is terrible. So my dad says to the man, this is really quaint and rustic. I just don't think it's for us. And he opens up his wallet and he just says, but I'd be happy to pay you for your time, and I'd be happy to give you any amount of money you'd like to take us to the other side of Lake Placid, to the main part, the main drag. And the man said, after a minute or two of being a little bit perturbed, he was like, yeah, if you don't want to stay here, I'm happy to bring you back. And we got back on that boat, and for 15 minutes, just white as a ghost as we headed back to the main drag. And I've never seen him or that girl again. And to my knowledge, no one has ever stayed at that bed and breakfast.
So I was living in Capitol Hill in a really old Victorian house. I had lived there for maybe a month or two, and I started noticing that I started going into like severe depression, and I started having like stomach problems, and my son was like 1 at the time, and I wasn't even really like able to take care of him, and I just didn't feel like me, and it just turned into like a really dark time for me at that place that I was living at. So I don't know, like maybe 6 months after I had lived there, I had someone come over, a stranger that I didn't really know, and he told me that he was looking around my apartment, and he said, do you see that hole in your window? Because I had a hole in my window that was gelled up, and I didn't really think anything of it. And he said my aunt shot herself right at that spot, and that's the bullet hole in your window. And it kind of all made sense after that. It was like I was being haunted by this suicidal aunt of this person, and the French doors of my room would always open when I closed them, and just really a bad juju in that apartment.
Did you move?
Heck yes.
Several years ago, once upon a different life of mine, I worked as an actress with the Second City. I was in their national touring company, and we did a show at a college near New London, New Hampshire. And the college put us up in an old town hall. We were just hanging out in the main room, kind of telling some scary stories, and we had heard rumors from some of the students that the place was haunted, but we thought not of it. Until that night, about 2 o'clock in the morning, I was not able to go to sleep. I was wide awake, and all of a sudden, I started hearing this pounding noise. Sometimes it was rhythmic, sometimes it was like boom, 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 other times it was just like boom, boom. This thing came up the stairs, boom, 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 as if someone were walking up the stairs pounding on the wall. No footsteps, just the banging. And then it went all the way down the hall, back up the other end of the hall. It came into the room I was in, pounding on the walls in the room, went out the window, and then was pounding on the outside of the place. It was cold. I was terrified. I was afraid to move. I was afraid to call out because I didn't want it to find me. The next morning, thinking maybe that I had dreamed this, feeling kind of silly, I was sitting having breakfast, and the piano player came in and he said, "Did anybody else hear that messed up pounding last night?" I said, "Oh my gosh, I did too." I said, "Why didn't you, yell out or something?" He said, "I didn't want it to find me." That was exactly the way I felt. That was the scariest thing that ever happened to me.